Okay, so we are today's Beis Iyar. Today's Beis Iyar, the beginning of the month of Iyar. And I wanted to go over the Sicha, which is a Sicha on Lag BaOmer, which is in another 16 days, and discuss a little bit about how special the month of Iyar is. Okay. What? Other.
Oh, other.
Yeah. But Iyar is also special.
Sounds right.
Ani Hashem Rofecha.
Oh.
It's a month of healing. It's a month of healing, and it's also a mini. You know how we talk about how there was Pesach, and then there's the whole Jewish year, all the way till Purim.
Why'd you say Ani Hashem Rofecha? It's not mentioned in the entire Agoda as one of the things that Hashem did for us in Yetzias Mitzrayim. At the end of Mitzrayim, coming out of Mitzrayim, Hashem says, after Ga'alti, Yitzesi, and all the Lashonis, He says, Ani Hashem Refecha, and I won't visit any of the plagues upon you. I am Hashem your God, I am your healer. Which to me sounds like it's at least as magnificent as Ga'alti, Yitzesi, I am your healer.
Right, so Ani Hashem Refecha is Rosh Hashanah Iyar.
Nice.
Okay,
but
can we mention that this morning should be refuah for the Rosh Hashiva?
Yes.
Shalom Aaron.
Yes.
Ben Chana.
Shalom Aaron Ben Chana. Refuah Shlema.
We don't know.
He's gotten a Refuah Shlema over there.
It's best we don't know.
Okay, so let's see. The Rebbe asks a very intense question over here. Okay, and it's just hopefully will shed light on the whole avoda of Iyar a little bit. Okay, what the work in Iyar is about. Okay. Benogei l'simcha b'yom Lag BaOmer. Why do we celebrate on Lag BaOmer? Okay, why do we celebrate on Lag BaOmer? I know we're a little premature to Lag BaOmer, but you guys can deal with it. Okay. Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, never too early to prepare. Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, shemosu mi-Pesach ad atzeres pasku melomos. Right, there was a plague, and the 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva were dying. Between 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva were dying from Pesach to Atzeres, and they stopped. There was no death. They stopped dying on Lag BaOmer. That's one reason.
I don't think there was any left after that, was there?
What?
I think they all died.
Well,
that's my recollection. They all died.
He was very influential.
It says in the Gemara, Shemasu mi Pesach ve'ad Atzeres. So it sounds like they died through the entire Tkufa, and I think that's why they're different. They're different minhagim. They're different minhagim. There's some people who stop totally at Lag BaOmer, and there's some people who only start at Rosh Chodesh Iyar and then go all the way to Gimel Sivan, which is 3 days before. What? All the minhagim of mourning.
Good. Put that on.
Okay, so people. There's one minhag to go from Pesach, basically after Chol HaMoed, and go from there until Lag BaOmer, and then once Lag BaOmer happens, we stop all the things. We listen to music. We shave. That's it. And then the other camp, the other minhag is starting by Iyar, Rosh Hashanah. The entire month of Nisan, they still listen to music, and shave and all that. And once Rosh Chodesh Iyar starts, then they stop all that and they go until Gimel Sivan. But of course, they can shave on Lag BaOmer, because on Lag BaOmer,
it says it's 3 minutes.
What's the third one?
I don't know.
Okay. But apparently, Reb Moshe says that if there's an ace tzarech, if there's a need, then you can actually change your minhag from one year to another. So if maybe 1 year you normally keep from this tkufa, if there's some kind of pressing issue or something like that, you can switch another year and keep a different minhag.
Like for weddings and stuff.
Something like that, yeah. Okay. So that's one reason that the Talmidim of the students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying on Lag BaOmer. The Kevan Shekol Inyani HaTorah Heim B'diek. Oh, and it's also the second reason is because it's the yard site of the Rashbi, okay, of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, but Tzarich Lahavin. Ma Shayches Bein Ma'ir Zel Talmidei Rabbi Akiva Pasku Malamos Lilul Rashbi. What's the connection between all of the students of Rabbi Akiva stopping to die on Lag BaOmer and and the Yortzeit, the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Why should those two things coincide? Ulachayra adarabba. Shnei ha'ma'oros elu heim davar v'hipucho. Ulachayra, they're opposite. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai haya echad michameishes talmidim Rabbi Akiva shenotru b'chayim. They were, after all of the 24,000 talmidim died, so then Rabbi Akiva had 5 new talmidim, or 5 talmidim. That was it, from 24,000 to 5. And one of them was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
That's almost everybody. Yeah. No, but with the 5 who he referred to, were they from the original ones, or were they new ones that he recruited? I think they all died and he recruited 5 new ones.
I don't know the answer to that. So Rabbi Akiva, Shenosri B'chaim, Veheim Heim Midu Torah. And these 5, it was from these 5 students, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda, okay. That's kind of embarrassing. No. Maybe Rabbi Nechemia. Okay. The Im came, Besimcha, Al Kach Shetalmid Rabbi Akiva Poskim Alomas Mudgash Shalag Ba'omer Hu Yom Shabo Rabbi Shimon V'Shara Talmidim Rabbi Akiva Notru B'Chaim Hepech Inyan Estalkus Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So all of the students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying on Lag BaOmer, and this is the day that Rabbi Shimon does die. Okay, V'yesh Loimar Abir B'Zeh B'Yom Estalkus Atzadik Mitztarfim Yachad Kol Masa V'Teres. Okay, we're gonna skip over. This is not the issue that I wanted to discuss.
Rabbi Yehuda Bar Elai, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shammai, Yossi ben Chalafta, and Shimon Bar Yochai.
Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon. Okay. Okay. Now, okay. Now, what about these 20? This is really what I wanted to discuss. This 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. Lo nogu kavod. Why did they die? We all know they died. The Gemara says lo nogu kavod zevazeh. They did not treat each other respectfully. Okay, they did not treat each other respectfully. Rabbi Akiva, who balamaimer v'haftal arecha kamocha zaklal gadol b'Torah. Rabbi Akiva is the one who said that v'haftal arecha kamocha, loving your neighbor like yourself. That is the klal gadol b'Torah. That is the general principle of the whole Torah. Loving your neighbor like yourself. V'im kain eichi tochen shetalmidav. How could it be that the students of Rabbi Akiva, who this is his what he holds.
This thing just moved.
Thanks. This is what he holds to be the general principle, the most important principle in the Torah. How could his students, Hanikram B'Taris Emes B'Shem Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, meaning either call them the people who learned with Rabbi Akiva, and this is why they died because they did not honor each other, but the Torah calls them Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. If you're a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, how can it be? How could you be called a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva and be going against the main principle that your Rebbe held? And yet you're called Talmidim. But they're called Talmidim.
No, in every other respect, they were Talmidim. In that respect, they weren't.
Huh?
In the respect of respect.
In that area, they were not Talmidim.
In that area, meaning in that area, which is the Klal Gadol B'Torah, their Rebbe was the Baal Memra, that this is the most important thing in the Torah.
They didn't get it. They were too competitive.
So then don't call them the Talmidim. They did not chap. They were not Talmidim. Then don't call them Talmidim.
Wow.
That's his kasha. Don't call them Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva if they couldn't chap the Klal Gadol B'Torah that their Rebbe professed.
And all of them missed the point.
That's the amazing point. Oh, 24,000.
How could it be? Don't call them Talmidim like Rabbi Akiva. Like Rabbi Akiva, these are your Talmidim. This is you're the one who says everything is, the most important thing is loving your neighbor like yourself. How could it be?
Because they had everything else right. Okay, that one they missed. How? We don't know.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Okay, so you don't hear the question, meaning it's fine. They got everything else right.
Yeah,
The main point they missed, but everything else they got right. And so that's enough to still call them Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva.
I think so, because everything else is still alive.
I mean, we lost everything. Well, those Talmidim, when they died, they died with their Torah.
Well, they
Like
sent a lot of head too.
what?
You know what it is? I think you're right. I'll tell you what it is. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha is the goal. It's the end game. You get to that end game by learning Torah, learning Musa, learning all these things. So you could be a Talmud of somebody trying to reach the goal of a person.
And you're lo nagu kavod zebazeh.
To reach a madrega where you love
Doesn't even
your
seem like
neighbor.
you're trying. Lo nagu kavod zebazeh. How much love do you need? Lo nagu kavod zebazeh. Even if I don't love you, at least I can do you respect. I mean,
What if you don't love yourself? How do you love your neighbor?
You can still be you can still give covet to people. You can still be covet to people. Okay, you can go to therapy and then also give covet to people. Like both can work.
You know what v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha? You know what v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha means? It means when you get up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say to yourself, "Oh, my nose is too long, my hair is receding, I gained a few weights. Look at that wrinkle." There's no kamocha. You don't love yourself in the morning, but you know what you do? You shower, you shave. You comb your hair, whatever we have left, and you get on with your day. You put on your suit and tie, and you get on with your day. Just like you forgive your own faults to yourself and you get on with your day and you do your thing, do the same thing for your neighbor. No more, no less.
More would be good.
More would be good.
Okay, but it's a question. I think we can all hear the question. It seems very startling that this.
Everybody but Louis.
Right, Louis is okay, but I think that there's something remarkable about that they are called the students of Rabbi Akiva, and yet the biggest teaching of Rabbi Akiva, or the teaching of Rabbi Akiva's greatest, what's the pinnacle of Torah?
Bothering you so much because think of the fact that they do all the other things, they screw up on one thing.
But if you say Zek Klal Gadol b'Torah, so it's like, okay, they did everything, but they washed Netilas Yadayim nicely, but they believed in Avodah Zarah.
No, we don't know that we don't believe that they believe.
Oh, but they did everything else right.
Yeah, they did everything else right.
But they did Avodah Zarah.
No, but we're not.
The hardest thing is.
I'm just saying, like, Avavta l'recha kamocha, Zek Klal Gadol b'Torah. Like Zek Klal, not Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad Zek Klal. Avavta l'recha kamocha, Zek Klal Gadol b'Torah. So they got everything else right, they got all the details right, but they missed the major principle that the Rebbe taught.
Yeah, okay.
That's fair. That's a problem. That's difficult.
That's why they died. We know that.
Okay, but that's not the question. The question is, it's fine. So they were punished for what they did, but how could they be called Talmidim? How could they be called Talmidim of the Rebbe if the main principle that the Rebbe taught, they ignored?
And how can they be chayiv misa for that?
Because they got all the other stuff right. So he didn't just talk.
I heard what you said,
Yeah,
but if you think that answers the problem, that answers the issue.
For me, it does.
Okay. So let's see what the Rebbe
After that, they're
says.
deserving death.
Let's see what the Rebbe says.
That was the judgment from Hashem.
But they got everything else right. Why? They got everything else right. What? Just this one little detail they messed up.
That was a big one, then.
A big one? What do you mean? They got everything else right.
Well, I'm sure they got big rewards.
Okay, so it doesn't seem there's something a little bit.
We're gonna
You
have
can't
a
have your
siren.
cake and eat it too,
We're
Louis.
gonna have a siren in about 5 seconds.
Okay. So we can think. What? How could this be? How could this be? Okay.
We have the honor and privilege to be probably the only place in the world where they do that.
A country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not probably that it is.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's our Yom HaZikaron. It's no other country's Yom HaZikaron.
No, but there's other countries where they have Memorial Day. America has Memorial Day.
Oh, that they do a siren for their Memorial Day. I see.
That's what I'm saying. There's other countries
Yeah, they have a sale.
There's other countries that have Memorial Days. They don't do this.
Okay, okay. So what's the answer? How could the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva be called the Talmidim, and yet they seem to be they seem to be missing the boat in the main teaching of the Rebbe? So he wants to explain, he wants to answer potentially that one of the answers could be, or is, that all of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, they all had their own individual way of understanding the Torah from their Rebbe. And according to the way they understood the Rebbe, according to the way they understood Rabbi Akiva, their Rebbe, they served Hashem. Avur ha'echad haya ha'ikar avas Hashem. For one, it was avas Hashem. V'avur chaveiro yiras Hashem. One guy, he understood what Rabbi Akiva was teaching, and it meant to him, avas Hashem is the thing. And another person, yiras Hashem, that's the thing. And kayotzi b'zeh. And somebody else, it was everything's Hashem. And somebody else, it was giving charity. If somebody else, it was davening. Somebody else, whatever. Everybody had their own. They understood that this is the ikar. This is really what the main event is. Kol echad mehem haya oifen halimud va'avoda shelo yichadu boi kol kach ad shiu boru b'daito shemi she'einu tzoyed b'derech zu yesh tchisaron b'shleimusay. The Talmidim, they had such a strong. Rabbi Akiva was the Rebbe. They had such a strong understanding of what the correct way of serving Hashem was, that they felt it was so intuitive to them, it was so clear to them, that if they saw somebody else doing differently than their mahalach, they felt there's something wrong with them. They're mistaken.
Unlike Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel.
They're not doing something right. They're not doing something right. Ubi Yosem Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, and because they were the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, Shehidgish vehifli mailas ini v'hafta l'recha kamocha, and Rabbi Akiva was the one who said, "Hey guys, you got to make sure v'hafta l'recha kamocha, you love your neighbor like yourself." It wasn't sufficient enough. It wasn't satisfactory for their own spiritual development to proceed and progress properly. But they also felt that it's not fair that I should know the truth and I should progress in my spiritual journey properly, but leave my friends to wallow in their mistakes. That's not right. I love my friend. I don't want to see my friend completely missing the boat in their avodas Hashem. That I should be the only one who has the advantage of knowing my shita and knowing how right that is, and progressing and advancing in my mahalach and my way of serving Hashem, and leave my friend in the dust to who doesn't know Aleph Beis basically and is totally missing the boat when it comes to serving Hashem properly. I can't do that. How could I love him? But when I went up to my friend and I said, Yossi, who's also a Talmid of Rabbi Akiva, what are you doing? This is not the right way what you're doing. Look at me. Let me tell you how to serve Hashem. Please, for your own good. So when they said, no, what are you talking about? Shmulek, you're missing the boat. I know the right way to serve. It's this way. You're missing the. What's going to be with you? You're missing the boat. When they wouldn't accept their way, when the other person didn't accept their way, what they understood to be the true way to serve, I couldn't respect you. I can't respect you. You're not doing. You're not.
They didn't know how to give techa.
You're not doing You're not doing the right way. No, it's not about not giving techa. They don't know how to give techa. Not kishur at all, really. No.
Well, they didn't know how to teach.
No. Kevan shahayu anshe emes, since they were men of truth. V'lochas v'sholom achas b'peh v'achas b'lev. It wasn't like they were saying one thing and they felt something else. Lo hayu cholim lechush regish kavod amiti zelazeh. They could not conjure up enough feeling of honor and respect for their fellow, who they saw as totally doing something wrong, as missing the boat in their service of God. Ad she'enu yochel alois b'daito gam al derech emes g'titichen shleimus yesh lo shorish b'avodas Rabbi Akiva atzmo. That is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva taught v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. And since they understood v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, they could not be mevater. They could not. What do you say, mevater? They could not
acquiesce.
They couldn't just let it go. They couldn't let it go that their friend is doing something not right. What do you mean not right? What do you mean not right?
Not spitz right.
Not the way I think is right. I've got the, I'm the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, and I have figured out what the real right mahalach, what the right way to serve Hashem is. And Nebuch, my friend, didn't get it.
But
He
they
didn't
had a
get it.
Rebbe. Why don't they just ask their Rebbe?
Well, 24,000. I mean, that's a lot of
so
Talmidim.
two.
What do you mean?
One-
what do they have
one
to ask?
guy
They,
should ask
what do you
the
mean?
Rebbe.
What they have to ask? It's
They
so
have a
clear
Rebbe.
to
Rebbe's
them.
not dead yet.
It's so clear to them. It's so clear to them. What do they have to ask
It's a
the Rebbe?
nice- it's
They
a
have to
nice
ask their
list.
Rebbe if they have a shaila. This is not a shaila to them. So much it wasn't a shaila to them. Then when I saw my friend, who's just the biggest Kamel Chacham as I am, but not putting the emphasis where I want the emphasis put,
They didn't see
where I
this-
think the emphasis should be put.
They didn't see this as a violation of that principle.
Of
What
what are you talking about?
They
Not
did not
just
see
not a
themselves-
violation. They were fulfilling v'hafta l'reacha kamocha by
insisting
saying
that
by
they're-
not giving you honor. I can't give you honor. You're missing the boat. How could I? If I would give you honor and let live you and your way of serving Hashem,
promoted.
I would be basically signing your death certificate. I'd be signing your
Why do you say honor?
substandard
I'm just
avoda.
curious, why did you say honor? It's about love. It's not about honor. It's about love, right?
Yes, but because they love, so that was the kasha. The
Respect.
kasha was if the whole klal gadol, if the main principle of Torah, according to the Rabbi Akiva, was v'afta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor like yourself, then how could it be that they were talmidim, they were the students, the pupils of this Rebbe, and yet they were not respectful one to the other?
Because they were too competitive. Each one wanted to be the best, okay? I have an answer from ChatGPT that they have.
Oh my gosh.
So
Rabbi
the
Chat.
question I asked was, why did Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students deserve to die? That's how I put it.
It's a different question.
Okay, that's it.
I'm not. We're not discussing that question.
Okay, you want me to change the question? Well, how would you like to say it?
Well, the question that the Rebbe is answering, I don't know what ChatGPT's answer would be to this question, which is how could they be called Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva if the main lesson of Rabbi Akiva, or the lesson of Rabbi Akiva, which is the main teaching of the Torah, is loving your neighbor as yourself? They seem to miss out on that. They seem to.
But you know
How could they be How could they be students of Rabbi Akiva and yet go against their Rebbe in the main principle?
So
what's the answer?
The answer is that they are as hard on themselves as they were on their fellow.
No.
What? No.
That's not what the answer is. It's not what the answer is.
That may not be his answer.
Well, that's what I'm trying to explain, is
So
what
they-
his answer is. What's his
I'm
answer?
suggesting enough.
Oh, well, let's first understand this answer, then we can suggest other answers.
Okay, so we
All
put
right, so
chat
I'll
BBT on
just give
hold.
you a small part of what it said because it wasn't the exact question you wanted. They did not show
I have a story.
respect to one another. That's the bottom line why they died.
You don't need ChatGPT for that. That's
No.
the
That's just the easy
Yeah.
part. This may seem puzzling. How could such great Torah scholars be punished so harshly for what seems like a character flaw? Here are some deeper explanations. Higher standards for the righteous. The more righteous you are, the more.
right. Let's pause with that one. And let's just make sure we understand the terets of the Rebbe on how could they have been v'afta l'reacha kamocha and not giving kavod. So he answers that they were v'hafta l'reacha kamocha. They did love their neighbors. They felt for their neighbors. But because they were holding their way, their hashkafa, their religious outlook so clearly that it has to be for everybody like this, because of their love for their fellow, they didn't care about their neighbor. So fine, so you're making a mistake. Go ahead, live your life in a crumb way. Live your life in a messed up way. Do wrong avodah. What do I care? I don't care about you. Do whatever you want. Ruin your life. What do I care?
My way.
It's because I love you. I can't bear to see you making a mistake and throwing your life away. I can't bear it. You're refusing to understand the truth of the right way to serve God. You're refusing. You're not seeing it the right way, i.e., my way. And I can't let that go.
Were there
What could you do?
24,000 opinions? Well, there are 24,000 opinions.
It seems to be that the problem these 24,000 Talmidim had was they were so convinced that the way they saw Avodas Hashem was for everyone, and therefore they could not respect their fellows when their fellow could not accept their way because they were doing it their way.
The more spiritually elevated a person is, the more is expected of them. Rabbi Akiva students were not ordinary people. They were destined to transmit the Torah to future generations. Their failure to properly honor each other was a profound breach, especially given the responsibility they carried.
Okay, so I wanna discuss this issue because this issue of us, I think we can all relate to this. I don't think that we have to go to Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. I think we all know that when we see, like, how do we see people that we care about, or Jews that we should be caring about, and they are not living what we would consider a Torah life. They're not doing the right thing. They're not caring about Olam Haba. They're not caring about the Neshama. They're not caring about Torah or Yiddishkeit or Hashem. And we see them, and how can we have respect for them? They're not doing what is the right thing. And if I love them and if I care about them, then how can I have respect for them? How can I let them just, they're not accepting the truth. They're stubborn, and they're not accepting it, and they're doing whatever they want to continue to do. How can I respect them?
As you know, the Rebbe always used to say, you know that he was the expert on the shamas.
Yeah.
So even though that guy over there, back to Jackie Mason, even though that guy over there is not doing not doing the stuff, however, his soul may be quite exalted, and I have no place to.
Okay. Okay. So that's
24,000 unique individuals with their background and their baggage, and their upbringing and their social status and their influences, and everybody approaches Hashem like every Navi does with their, rose-colored glasses, and apparently it wasn't acceptable to these 24,000 Hasidim. Talmidim.
They're immersed in Torah, but they're competitive. That's what I learned. Their competitive spirit may have overshadowed their interpersonal sensitivity.
well. Okay. So competitive spirit. Then you're back to the kasha. So then you're back to the kasha. How were they Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva if they were so competitive and didn't do Ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha? Competitive sounds like it's against Ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha. The teretz of the Rebbe is offering here, the answer the Rebbe is offering here is saying no, they did have Ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha, and because of their Ahavta L'Orecha Kamocha, they could not let go that their friends were doing it wrong.
It says each student may have believed his understanding was the truest, and this caused a subtle but fatal breakdown in mutual respect.
There you go.
That's it.
There you go.
What I think the Rebbe was saying, which is pretty much what I think I was alluding to before, now that you've expressed it in the written word, is that they were each as hard on themselves in maintaining and achieving what their Rebbe taught them. And they felt that they understood that mahalach, and therefore, because of their love for their fellow human being, it's like when you recommend a cardiologist that you love.
It's nothing to do with hard on yourself. I don't know what this deal of hard on yourself. It's nothing about being hard on yourself. It's that you have the best cardiologist. It's not about being hard on yourself. It's just wanting the best thing. It's if it occurs to you that it's the best thing.
So you found your mahalach, the mahalach.
Yeah.
And you wanted to make sure that everybody around you finds that same mahalach as you did, is privileged to find it as you
We
did.
can find it. I'll tell it to you. You don't have to find it. I'll tell
refuse,
you.
And they refuse to be open-minded as you were listening from your Rebbe's mahalach. And that bothers you because you're not on the same platform as I am. You're not on the same train as I am. And I want you to be on the same...
Because my train is going to Olam Haba and your train is going God knows where. That's what, I mean, I've got the right mahalach.
So
my
Rebbe,
train is going to the right destination.
Kaval,
like, your train is not.
24,000 kanoim is what it sounds like.
So here's an answer to our earlier question. Hashem allowed history to take a new direction through the 5 later students of Rabbi Akiva.
Okay.
In other words, everybody died in the...
So how does this fit into Iyar? What is the message of Iyar? What is the avoda in Iyar? And how is the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, the death of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, what? No, not with not Lag Bomer. That was a different point he's making. I'm not going into that. So I want to bring some ideas that I learned by Rav Dov Ber Pinson. He has these books on about the months. Very, 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 very incredible books, and talking about Iyar. And Iyar is, right, we have Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan. And Iyar is the month that all of the days of the month we're counting Omer, right? In the entire month is devoted to this personal development phase and this growth. And Nisan is this month where it's this. What's the sign of Nisan? Nisan is what's the zodiac? It's the baby lamb. It's the baby lamb. And Nisan, we're basically infants. We're infants. We are just born. We're little babies. Hashem delivered us. He's feeding us the matzah. And then Iyar is the zodiac of the bull, the shore. And this is our childhood and adolescence. We're growing up. We're growing up, and what is growing up? And then there's adulthood, which is Sivan, where we're ready to take the Torah. And Sivan is twins, where we have two. It's the Te'umim. Okay, Gemini. So what's going on here? So what's going on is that there is a maturation process. There's a maturation process, and I would hold that this maturation process could mirror the same maturation process that we talk about from Pesach all the way to Purim, right? Pesach is when Hashem shows us great miracles, and then we have the whole year to kind of inculcate the ideas of Hashem running the world until finally Purim, where it's completely hidden, and we have to come to it ourselves. And Purim is a Matan Torah. We know that Purim was another giving of the Torah experience, and so that evolution from Pesach, from birth until maturity in Purim, we see that in a shorter version between Pesach and the giving of the Torah. We have Pesach where we're just taken out, we're just infants, we're still not potty trained, and then Iyar is the time where we are coming into ourselves. We're individualizing. We're each coming into our own personhood and our own individuality. We're the shore, we're the bull. And then Sivan is where we've matured to the ability where we are really able to accept another and be part of the Torah and reach total maturity and accept the Torah and have both the individuality, but also to be able to humble ourselves and be machnia ourselves to another and to accept the Torah. So Iyar is this month where we are challenged to become individuals, to grow up, to be children. We grow our hair out at the beginning of Iyar, right? According to all the minhagim, we're not allowed to cut our hair for the first part of Iyar, and that's a symbol of our wild individuality, of us embracing our who we are. I'm not you, you're not me, I'm me, and I'm gonna be me. But then we cut it. In the second part. We cut it at Lag BaOmer. We start cutting our hair. Lag BaOmer, either you cut it on Lag BaOmer, you start cutting from Lag BaOmer on. And that is that I'm making room for another. That I can be individual, but I'm also working to rein in my individuality, that it doesn't interfere. It doesn't mean that it doesn't discount your individuality. It doesn't discount yours. So I can become who I need to be, but I don't see that everything is the way I see it. Right? That's the downside of radical individuality. I'm the only one. My way, the way I see the world, the way I go, that's the only way to see it. I know you from kindergarten. You got to listen to me. I know. Yes, Louis.
I asked you a question.
What did you ask?
Here's all I said. Tell me if I did it wrong. But why are there 24,000 students who died of Rabbi Akiva? Tell me them when they did not keep the core value of Rabbi Akiva to love your fellow as yourself. This is a profound and important question. You get credit for asking a profound question. How about Rabbi Akiva? How about Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students? How could they be called disciples? If If they fail to live by a central teaching, love yourself, love your fellows yourself, they were genuine. Answer. They were genuine Torah scholars. The term Talmidim refers to their role as dedicated Torah students. They learned Torah day and night under Rabbi Akiva, mastered vast knowledge, and were
This is Louis. This is your answer. ChatGPT is.
No, he's giving a straight answer. And they're on the path to becoming the next generation of Torah leaders. And yet, knowledge alone does not equal spiritual perfection. They were Talmidim, their intellect and study, but still flawed in heart and character, especially in their relationship with their peers. The Gemara doesn't say they were wicked, only that they failed to show proper respect for one another. Even such.
It doesn't answer the question, Louis. I'm sorry. It basically says they were Talmidim because they learned everything else. They learned a lot.
That's what I said.
I know that's what you said. That's why I said it's your answer.
Okay, but that didn't come from me. It's coming from them.
What?
This Iyar Sivan thing with the signs and
Yes,
and it's very nice.
Yes. So this is our maturation process.
The last thing your answers, what I think is important. Their failure was tragic, but it doesn't erase their status as Talmidim. That's what I felt. Rather, it shows that even Torah scholars can have blind spots. Greatness in Torah is not.
Yes. What was their blind spot? Their blind spot was not v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. That's not their blind spot. That was the kasha. The kasha was, it sounds like their blind spot was v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. How could they be called Talmidim if their blind spot was the spot that their Rebbe was? This is the Klal Gadol, right? That was the kasha.
But they were Torah.
So that teretz totally whitewashed the kasha. Okay. Pardon me. But that teretz of, well, they were Talmidim of everything else, so they were Talmidim. Okay, that's basically saying there's no kasha. There's basically no kasha.
These
So
guys, when they get up
fine.
there,
So there's no kasha. Fine. ChatGPT also says there's no. It's a profound kasha, but there's no kasha. Okay,
They blew that one. We get that.
Louis, it's either hear the kasha, you don't hear the kasha.
Well, they get credit for other things they did.
I'm not trying to take credit
That's
away
why
from
they're called
anybody. I'm not
Talmidim.
trying to take credit away from
That's
anybody.
why they're called
But
I think what the Rebbe is trying to say is that it's because of their love for what their Rebbe taught them and their acceptance of that principle of v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. It's because of they incorporated that and took it into their hearts and they lived by that credo. That in itself, by them trying to bring in their fellow loved Talmidim, the Chavrusas, into their world of their acknowledgement of how to serve God, that's what created this sort of like, not toxic, but this sort of like friction.
Competition.
Well, I think what created the toxicity or whatever, if we can say such a thing, what created the issue was their inability to be able to see that somebody else has their own life.
Yes.
That somebody else has their own process, that their own derech.
They were blinded by
their individuality and the way they saw things and the emes that made so much sense to them and was so clear to them that they weren't supposed to accept somebody else's opinion, but they weren't supposed. They were blinded to think that their way wasn't for everybody else.
Right, but that doesn't erase them to be called Talmidim because they did everything else right. That's the point.
No.
Yeah.
Louis,
That's what you say.
Louis, they don't. They're not. They should still be called Talmidim because they did not negate their Rebbe's main teaching. They lived by their Rebbe's main teaching. The Kasha thought that they weren't. The Kasha was, how could they be called the students of Rabbi Akiva if the Rabbi Akiva's teaching that the main point is loving, weren't they over that main teaching? The answer is no. They weren't. They fulfilled that teaching, but they missed out because they could not see that their way was for them and not for their friends.
Yeah, they believed it, but they didn't practice that one thing. We get that. But they did everything else, so that's why they
also practiced it, Louis. They also practiced the V'ahavta l'recha. There was a flaw. But the flaw was in V'ahavta l'recha. With V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, if they were right, let's say they were right. Let's say I'm right. There really is only one way, and it's the way I think, and you're totally wrong. And your inability to see my way is going to be your downfall. If I really loved you, I would find a way to make sure you got the message from me. right?
Yeah.
So they were they weren't kiruv professionals, I guess,
They were so set in their way.
but they were so set in their
Rebbe's
thinking
Right.
that their way was right for everybody.
Right. What's amazing is 24,000 of them all thought that.
No, but they
That's
didn't,
unbelievable.
they didn't understand the
That is
expansiveness
the
of
problem.
Torah. They didn't
That's the
understand the
problem.
expansiveness of Torah.
You know, one
Well,
of
they
the-
didn't
There's
understand-
room, that there's room and space for everyone,
one of the
and
only-
everyone has a value.
which is pre-
Listen.
No,
There's definitely a slippery slope when you start saying everybody, everything's
I'm not
good.
saying, I'm not saying within the liberal nonsense.
It's
I'm
that
saying,
they need to appreciate that just like they have a mahalach, another person has a mahalach. Just because I knew you since you were in diapers doesn't mean like you don't have your process. That I always see you as like a little kid or whatever it is. Like these people, they knew each other from when they were in cheder together, and so they thought, this person, who's he? I know him since he was in first grade.
Why were you so critical when I said unlike they shall and they so?
What was I so critical?
Yeah.
I Bichlal did not even relate to what you said.
Oh,
There was no
that's why you didn't
criticalness.
relate to it.
I did not relate to it.
Oh, so let me explain. Because they have such differences in psak halacha
Yes.
as night and day, especially when it
Yes.
comes to arayas,
Yes.
still they intermarry.
They still intermarried. Yes.
So unlike their mahalach, which is their Rebbe's mahalach, and the Beis Shammai is Shammanics and Beis Hillel Hillelics, and they each had their Rebbe, and they each knew that the halacha was the way their Rebbe said it was. Despite that fact, they still had their children intermarry to one another, even though at times it seemed as though they were violating halacha of their Rebbe.
which means they gave
That's-
space and value to each other.
So this came before Rabbi Akiva. This came before these 24,000 Talmidim, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. Right? Hillel and Shammai lived before Rabbi Akiva. Okay. So
unlike that.
okay. So they would have said they listen. They what their problem was not v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Their problem was not being able to see the other. And in Iyar, we can't blame them because Iyar has this duality. It has this duality of working on yourself, of being very self-motivated, right? It's not Nisan. Nisan, the heavens open, it's revealed miracles. Iyar is our time that we're day after day, we're counting, we're building, we're trying to connect ourselves, and we're trying to become ourselves. We're growing up, we're becoming children and teenagers. There's that individuation. I'm not just this mass from this mass of people. I'm my own person. I'm not, like I have a 3-year-old now, and she's very much, I have a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they're both very much in this Iyar phase of to you, I know the right way. So we have to understand that there's a place for both. There's a place for our individuality, how we see things, that things connect to us, that I grow up, that I become my own person. I have my own relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom, my own relationship with Torah, my own relationship with Avodas Hashem, and with growth and with self-development, my own. But I don't allow my own way, things that work and make sense and fit in and are the way I'm working in the world, to not be able to respect another person's way. Just like I have my way, just like I am coming into my own, and this is not, I understand that you have your, I'm not going to, because you are not, okay? We all know that I'm into the Chovas Levavos, okay? But if, let's say you say, I'm not interested in reading the Chovas Levavos, I don't want to read the Tanya, I don't want to read this thing, okay? I have to now not respect you. I can't respect you because you're completely missing the boat in Yiddishkeit by not learning the Chovas Levavos and the Tanya. I have to not respect you now. I can't appreciate that you have your own process, that Hashem is working through you with your own life, just like mine. Everybody has to believe like I do. Everybody has to think like I do. So the ultimate is when we get to Sivan, we have the twins, we have the two, where it's not just the bull, but it's the bull has to be harnessed. So we have the first half of Iyar where we're growing our hair out, where we're working on growing up, on being who, on individualizing, on individuation, a central, important, vital growth and maturation development phase. but that we should not be blinded by our individuality so much that I can't make room or space or respect another person. And so that is what happened by the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. It was it wasn't their lack of love. They had tons of love, but what they did not have was enough of an ability to respect the other person's process, the other person's understandings, the other person's way that Hashem is taking them in their life. It has to be my way, or you're wrong, and I feel bad for you. I can't even respect you because you're not listening to me. And so that is.
They still had a Rebbe. I don't understand what happened to their Rebbe.
I think they didn't have any. Listen, when you are so clear about what you understood from your Rebbe, that's not the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is that when I think that what's clear to me also has to work just like the same for you.
Nobody went to the Rebbe and said, "What do I do with Yossi? Yossi doesn't hold like this, and what do I do with him?" Nobody had who to talk to.
There was 24,000
people.
No, but you didn't have because you're conscious.
24,000 people didn't go to the Rebbe
Because you're conscious.
from Mahalach to talk something through. It's a
Their
very
consciousness
nice Torah. Okay, it's nice Torah.
But their consciousness was true. They didn't have a kasha. They didn't have a kasha.
24,000 people didn't speak to their Rebbe. It's very nice. Okay, go back.
It's hard to understand.
I think that's kind of the point. The point is that they understood their way so right and so deeply that there wasn't a question. It wasn't a question that they needed to bring up to the Rebbe to ask.
Well,
And it was just like,
question.
Chabal, yeah, my colleagues are missing the boat. I'm gonna tell my Rebbe that what's gonna be with all these people. They don't listen to you. They're not following you.
Another question: when they start dying, how could Rabbi Akiva not have interjected himself into the remaining people, realizing there was a cancer going on among his students, and not go in there and
He may not have been able to. He may not have identified the problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How could he not have realized there was something going on here that he could interject himself and to save the rest of them?
The Gemara later on only goes back to reflect on the story and to try to give meaning as to why they died.
So does he get responsibility for not having come forward and say, "Listen, guys, here's the problem. You guys are not doing this. Even though you're great."
Well, listen, they were following his dictate of Ahavta l'reacha kamocha zaklal gadol b'Torah. They were following it. They were following it. They had another blind spot. They had a different blind spot that Rabbi Akiva did not have a klal gadol about.
That he didn't see.
And this was this problem of taking our individuality to an extreme.
If there's an issue from one guy to the other, it's definitely not. I'm learning Hasidus and Tanya and Ramchal, and you're sitting there with the Chumash and the Gemara all day. Get with the program. That is not enough to get anybody hammered for. It's just not.
When you say hammered, you mean
Hammered,
excited,
like
drunk?
dead.
What do you mean?
Kill.
Dead. You're dead.
You hammer somebody, you kill.
It's gotta. It would have to be something like like off. Somebody is off. Something.
No, nobody was hammering anybody. Nobody was hammering. No.
They got hammered by Hashem.
No, it's by Hashem for how they were treating other people. But what they were just basically saying I can't I'm not going to be. I can't gyrus you. I can't be gyrus. Like you're no, but it's like okay. So it's like but yeah, if you're just what you telling me that people who learn Gemara all day, they see somebody learning Tanya and Chasidus and they don't think that person is off the derech? That's not something that could happen?
Well, today it's
of course.
Yeah, but they're not deserving of that.
So what?
They would just say that.
I'll tell you.
Like you don't get it.
You don't get it.
You
right?
don't get it.
You don't get it.
Not with
You don't
the
get it.
program.
So it's like, can you get with the program? Like, no, I'm not getting with the program. This is what I think is the right thing.
Right.
But doesn't Rabbi Akiva,
But it's still-
there's some
again,
responsibility.
it's not
Now I love you so much, and you're so not with the program. What? I can't respect you. I can't respect you. I'm going to cut you in line because I can't respect. Like when you start listening to the MS, okay, we can talk.
Okay.
Because I love you. If I didn't love you, go ahead, do whatever you want. You're like, if you're mentally disabled, then what can I do? You know, this is why I love you, and I'll be respectful of you. But if I know you have the mental capacity to believe, to know what I'm talking about, and you're not accepting my way,
But doesn't Rabbi Akiva bear some responsibility?
Yes.
I'm not criticizing Rabbi Akiva hospital, but doesn't he bear some responsibility?
ask ChatGPT.
know.
Okay, I don't know.
It's like Aaron. It's like Aaron and Cohen bearing responsibility for the ego.
And he did.
What do you mean? Aaron
That's what
Cohen.
he said.
Aaron Cohen was.
That's what this was.
Okay, so we'll just end off with this. This was last week's parsha.
I know say concerning your question. One of the Geonim, I don't remember which one, Sadigon or Igon, I'm not sure which one. And I don't remember seeing it inside. I don't think. Anyway, he says, I think I'm attributing it to one of the Geonim, that Rabbi Akiva was a tremendous believer in Bar Kokhba and his revolution against the Roman Empire.
You thought Bar Kokhba was Mashiach.
And he thought Bar Kokhba was Mashiach. And he encouraged his people to support the war effort and go fight. And he claims, if it's correct, if it's accurate,
Who?
one of the Goyim, he claims that they died in battle. In this period,
Well, these 24,000
Right. They died in battle.
Mm.
And they lost the battle ultimately, which doesn't really answer the question and doesn't necessarily seem to coincide with what the Gemara says. However, someone said that the most important thing in battle is to protect your neighbor, is to make sure you always have the other guy's back. And when there's this flaw of respect, or whatever that flaw is, which I can't really define yet, of your fellow man,
People are going to die.
it creates a dangerous situation in battle.
And battles need us to do.
It's a lack of achdus. It somehow it trickles down to that you should have been there for the guy. You should have backed him up. But because you felt that this guy didn't say Shema the right, so I don't want to belittle it. I don't want to go there. Anyway, because of this flaw of failing in respecting your fellow man, whatever that means, it sort of created a fissure in their armor in this battle against the Romans, and that's why they were killed.
And they say Midas Adin.
And then you
Midas
sort of
Adin.
understand that it was
War,
part of a
Midas
war,
Adin. So
and-
these,
I never heard that.
these are people being held to the
I have to
highest
ask.
accountability. No
Yes.
doctor.
Okay.